Okay, let's go.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. You got to hear our little conversation for those joining a little bit earlier. Today is our 15-minute webinar on, I would say our most popular topic, which are the extended disc profiles. So we're going to give you a little introduction to them, a few tips. If you have any questions, and a lot of you will have questions, please put them in the Q&A section. I don't guarantee you we'll answer them live, but I promise you that we'll follow up with you after the session is over today. This is being recorded, and we will post this on our website as well as the Extended Disc YouTube channel in case you need to review it or share it later on. So welcome, my name is Christina. I'm the training director here at Extended Disc, and joining me is my wonderful colleague, Marku Kauppinen, president of Extended Disc. Hey, Marku.
Hey, Christina, good to see you.
All right, Marku, we got a lot we love to talk about. We could talk for days about profiles. So let's go ahead and get started here. So for those of you that use extended disc assessments, you're probably very familiar with profiles, and oftentimes you may be very comfortable debriefing them to your clients, but hopefully sometimes just having that kind of refresher or different perspective to how we approach profiles can help you better debrief profiles to your clients. So first off, and Marku, jump in anywhere, it is based on DISC. I mean, that's the most obvious thing, the DISC model itself, DISC. So regardless of what DISC tool you use, and many of you know that there are different tools out there and they don't all measure the same thing, but I always say, what are the commonalities to the DISC tools is that they are all based on the DISC model. So how we describe a D, an I, an S, or a C cell is very, very similar. Marku, we validate the tool. What does that mean for our clients?
Well, that's something that actually was thinking about this. We talked about this webinar today. I was driving somewhere earlier today, and one of the things that we really take a lot of pride in, and I think is so important, is to understand that when we measure something, we need to make sure we're measuring what we believe we are measuring. So a couple of things. One is that international validation, and more importantly, revalidation every 2 years. A lot of the assessment tools are validated for one country. And you think about how different the world is, not only in terms of culture, et cetera, but probably most importantly, the language is so important that every participant, respondent, I should say, gets to complete the questionnaire in their own language, and we validate that for each of those 70 plus languages. And more importantly, I think, is that when we know the validity of the results is not what it's supposed to be, we don't provide a report. We let our clients know that the validity for whatever reason is not what it's supposed to be. And because people make pretty important decisions, sometimes based on their assessment results, we let our clients know when it's not valid that we should do something. And we're not going to get details of that, but it's important for us to know that when the results are not valid, we are not going to provide you our best guess who the person is.
Right. And so once you have confidence in your clients being able to take this DISC tool that generates results that you can trust, what are these results that come out of the tool? Well, it creates these graphs that represent their visual representation that describes a person's relationship of all 4 DISC styles. And so when we are talking about today are these profile results that reflect that. So I just wanted to share with you just an example of how to understand the profiles as well as how do we interpret the profiles. So I'll just give the overview, and I'm going to throw it over to Marku to kind of talk more in detail. But you can see that regardless of whether or not you want the profiles in the report, or maybe you just want the natural style profile in the report, again, what's wonderful is our reports are customizable, but everyone generates 2 profile results. And the first one is profile 1, which is your perceived need to adjust. And I call that like a snapshot. It's a picture of how you felt you needed to present in terms of the 4 DISC styles at the time you took the assessment. So it reflects how you believe you need to adjust to the present environment. Whereas profile 2 is what we call your natural style. It's the easiest way I say it is, it just reflects your most comfortable way of doing things, how you prefer to go about the day without any external pressures. So it helps us to predict how you prefer to communicate, how you prefer to make decisions, how do you prefer to sell, how do you prefer to lead. So that's kind of the quick overview of profile 1 and profile 2. So Markku, kind of lead us into how do we better understand, how do we interpret these profiles?
Well, as you know, Christina, almost 100% of our clients use some DISC assessment in the past. And what they like about extended DISC is that what we measure is who the person really is, and that's that profile 2, who we truly are. And I always refer to this because one of our clients said, maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, say, Markku, I used to use DISC. And what this told me is who's the person I meet on the first date. But what extended DISC tells me is who's that person that I wake up next to 20 years later, my spouse. And that is really important to understand, that we really want to understand who the person actually is, and that is that profile 2. And that profile 2 remains quite stable, not rigid, but very stable throughout a person's adult lifetime. And the reason I think it's really important to understand who the person actually is, it is because we want to understand what is a starting point for development. If I want to become more successful as a communicator, as a leader, as a salesperson, as a person in general, I need to understand what is the starting point for my journey. And that's what really we do focus on. The second thing is that when we look at the DISC profile in extended DISC, a lot of the DISC tools look at there that each DISC behavioral style is kind of on a scale, like from maximum to minimum, but we need to understand that there is no maximum or minimum when it comes to D, I, S, and C styles. They are not absolute scales. Really what we need to focus on is what is the relationship among the 4 styles, because all of us have all of these 4 styles in us. And what we need to understand is what is our comfort level or how much energy it requires for us to exhibit these different behavioral styles. Like for example here, this person obviously very comfortable with D style. You know, that's kind of behavior that they're just comfortable with. When they are able to operate in that D environment, they can energize. In fact, they may overuse that D style to a point where it becomes a liability. But maybe we look at that low S style, doesn't mean that this person doesn't have any S behaviors, but that is the behavioral style that takes a lot of energy from them. But maybe if they want to improve, they need to think about when are the times for me to, for short periods of time, to exhibit that S behavioral style. Hopefully that adds something to our conversation, Christina.
Yeah, I really like how you talked about energy, because one of the things that sometimes I hear people talk about is that they think of this as their ability to do something, meaning that DISC predicts their success. And what it really is focused on, as Markku mentioned, is it's really about energy. It's just that there are certain behaviors for us that take more energy, and there are certain behaviors for us that are much more comfortable and don't take much energy. And as Markku pointed out here, for this person's D style, their D style is probably a style that, you know, those D style behaviors are very comfortable to them. They don't even have to think about it. It's just very natural. Their I style behavior, which is also above the line, makes it part of their natural style, but it's probably not a style that they would rest comfortably in for long periods of time. But again, it's part of their comfort zone. If they need to adjust to their I style for, you know, depending on the environment, it's comfortable and easy for them to do that relatively. And as Markku mentioned, the S style, which is in this person's case, their least comfortable style, it doesn't mean that they can't do it, but it's almost like they have to say to themselves, okay, Christina, I need to slow it down a little bit right now. I need to kind of look at more of the details. And then lo and behold, you can do it. Now if you had to be S style for the entire day, you might go home and say, whew, I'm exhausted. And that's really
Yes,
drained my
yes.
day, right? So really it's a reflection of energy.
That's exactly, it's all about energy and creating that confident self-awareness. Say, this is who I am. I want to succeed in my professional life, in my personal life. What do I need to do in terms of adjustments of behavior? Because knowing who we are in terms of our disc style, it's nice to know, it's important to know, but really the focus should become how do we now identify the styles of other people and then make modifications in our behavior. And this really provides you with a very accurate starting point for your journey to become more successful.
Right. And when you're debriefing this to a client, a lot of times we want to look at each of these profiles equally. But you can tell Marku and I are trying to get you guys to focus on profile 2, because profile 2 is, as Marku said, that's your base point. Now that you understand this is how I tend to show up to others, in this case, if I'm a DI, I'm probably someone that likes to go a little faster pace. I'm maybe less interested in detail. I'm more focused on the big picture. That's how I most comfortably operate. So now I can make better decisions, like in situations where maybe I need to create more interactions or slow it down. I'm more aware that that's not part of my natural style, and I need to almost consciously tell myself to do that. But again, it's not about ability. It's just, hey, I need to do that, or I need to practice doing that, and then you do it, right?
Exactly right. And understanding that too in terms of when we are in situations that we are under pressure and under stress, we tend to revert to this natural style. And when we are in those pressure situations, we have to be particularly careful about how we are self-aware and how we modify our behavior.
Exactly. And so, a tip for you guys, because a lot of you are debriefing these reports to your clients. How would I do it? Usually what I do as a trainer is I focus in on, of course, profile 2 first. So I say, hey, it looks like you are an 80% D and 20% I, meaning you lead more comfortably with your D, but you also have I as part of your natural style. And again, it's not about ability. Your S and C styles are simply just take more energy for you. Where do I get these numbers? We've made your life easier. You could see in the lower corner below profile 1, there's a statement that says your DISC style is. That is the statement that reflects your profile 2. Now, if I were to bring in profile 1 into the debrief, I would say, looking at your profile 1, where you believe you need to adjust to at this point in time, it looks like you want to focus 100% of your energies on your D style right now. How do you feel about that? So again, our job and our role as a coach is not to interpret the results for them, but to present the results to them and then let them interpret, why do I feel the need to focus on my D style right now and not focus on my I style or the other 2 styles as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And what the extended DISC diamond framework really does is to help us to provide the framework in which to understand these adjustments. And of course, each person, they've lived these profiles, profile 2, who they are, profile 1, how I think I need to be or perceive I need to adjust at this time. They know it. And once they understand the framework, the conversation is typically very, very productive. They are beginning to think about, okay, this makes sense. What I'm doing right now, maybe I need to change something else. And ultimately, and I've said this before, it's about behavioral modifications for each interaction with each situation, each person, and that's how we become more successful.
Exactly. So just to give you just a couple tips, you guys already heard me say it because I'm a trainer, I'm just going to pound it into you. Focus on profile 2. In fact, the majority of the results that your clients read in the report is based off of profile 2. There's not a whole lot based on profile 1 because it is their perception of how they need to adjust. It doesn't necessarily make them successful. So the real hard data for which you can make better decisions off of is your profile 2 natural style. You heard Marcus say it. You are all 4 styles. Every one of us is. So, when our clients say, oh, they're not going to pick me because I'm not a D style for the manager position. It's not about ability. You have all 4 styles in you. It's just knowing that there are certain styles that's going to take more energy, and there's other styles that come very natural to you. Again, we can talk all day about this. It's a topic I get very passionate about, but unfortunately our time is up. If you have any questions or you would like to learn more about interpreting profiles, we have a lot of resources on our Extended DISC website, as well as our client resource site for those active users of Extended DISC assessments. Any last thoughts or tips, Marco?
Well, of course, the profiles tell us the most about who we are, and there's no way we can cover everything in 15-minute webinar. So if you were hoping that, sorry, it's just not possible. But we have a lot of new resources on our website, extendeddisc.org. We have a lot of new webinars. Go to our website. On the top right-hand corner, you find a tab called Events. Click on that, and you see all the upcoming webinars. And even if you can't make the date or time, be sure to register, because we promise we will send you the recording after the webinar. So we got a couple of new webinars coming up next week. Christina, you want to share quickly what they are?
Yes, we have one on the SCA, which stands for Sales Competence Assessment, and we're focused on the Team Competence Summary Report, which is one of the many reports that fall under that suite of tools. And then one of our very popular and brand new reports is our self-study workbook. So if you haven't heard of it, you'd like an introduction overview to it, join us on Wednesday, October 7th. I can't believe it's October. Thank you guys all for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of your day.